Ancient engineers built portable weapons that could punch through armor, a hidden claw turned a bare hand into a deadly trap, and a Roman machine fired grappling hooks across the ocean. All this and more. These are ancient weapons so advanced they shouldn't have existed. Back in 1659, a Hindu king named Shivaji was leading a rebellion to carve out an independent kingdom in western India, creating what became the powerful Maratha Empire. But a rival general named Afzal Khan wanted to crush the rebellion and set up a peace summit inside a tent to negotiate. The general tried to strangle Shivaji during a hug, but Shivaji was ready for it. Hidden right inside his left hand was a weapon called the Bagh, Nakh, or tiger claws. With one fast strike to the guy's stomach, Shivaji ended the fight right then and there. The weapon was pretty simple. It was a metal bar that rested across your palm, held in place by two rings you slipped over your fingers. Because the main bar sat flat inside your hand, you could close your fist and look completely unarmed. Someone looking right at you would have no idea you were holding anything until you made your move. It gave you the ultimate element of surprise without dragging heavy gear or raising red flags with guards searching you for weapons before a meeting. India had a lot of really creative weapons. There's another one coming up on this list that is incredible. During a massive sea war in 36 BCE though, Roman commander Marcus Agrippa ran into an issue. Rome's usual strategy was dropping heavy wooden bridges onto enemy boats to board them. We talked about that in part 2, but those bridges were massive, they were clunky, and they made the ships harder to steer. Agrippa needed a way to snag enemy ships from a safe distance, so he came up with a catapult-fired grappling hook called the Harpax. It was essentially a 7-foot wooden beam wrapped in thick iron bands. On one end was a heavy iron hook, on the other was a long rope attached to a winch back on the Roman deck. Instead of throwing hooks by hand, Roman sailors loaded the whole Harpax straight into a catapult and shot it across the water like a giant missile. When the iron hook slammed into an enemy ship, it dug deep into the wood. Enemy sailors ran over with axes trying to cut the rope, but Agrippa was one step ahead of them. The front section of the beam was wrapped in solid iron, so axe blades just bounced right off. The Roman crew then yanked their winches, dragging the enemy ship right up next to them so that their soldiers could jump aboard. At the Battle of Naulochus, this thing helped destroy or capture over 180 enemy ships. Around 400 BCE, Greek engineers came up with a handheld bow that didn't rely on your arms to pull the string back. They called it the Gastraphetes, which translates to belly bow or belly releaser. Normal bows were limited to how strong your upper body was, but this design let a soldier use their entire body weight to load the weapon. The back end had a smooth, curved wooden pad shaped to fit right against your stomach. To load it, you rested the tip on the ground, leaned your whole body over the stock, and shoved your belly hard into the pad. That downward weight pushed a sliding track back, pulling the heavy bowstring until it clicked into a trigger. A built-in ratchet kept the string from snapping back while you were loading it. Because the bow limbs were super thick and stiff, the Gastraphetes fired heavy wooden bolts with way more power than your standard bow. It could punch straight through armor and wooden shields from distances that normal archers couldn't even reach. When Julius Caesar trapped a massive enemy force at the hill fortress of Alesia in 52 BCE, his army was totally surrounded. To keep the enemy from rushing his lines, Caesar had his engineers build hidden underground traps that worked an awful lot like modern landmines. One of his favorites was a trap called the Stimulus. Roman soldiers dug shallow trenches, buried heavy logs in the dirt. Sticking out of those logs were curved iron spikes that looked like giant fish hooks. It covered everything back up with dirt, leaves, and grass, so the ground looked normal. When enemy troops came charging across the field, those iron hooks drove right into their feet, locking them in place, tearing through their boots. Right next to those hook traps, the Romans dug hidden pits lined with sharpened wooden stakes and set up spring-loaded metal traps designed to snap shut on anyone's legs. Enemies couldn't charge the Roman lines without stepping on a hidden spike, turning the whole battlefield into a complete gruesome nightmare before hand-to-hand fighting even started. Back in the 6th century BCE, elite Persian warriors carried a short sword called the Akinakes. It was a straight double-edged blade about 18 inches long, built specifically for fast thrusts in tight spaces. While most weapons back then were pretty rough pieces of iron, these were built with incredible precision. Persian blacksmiths figured out how to forge tough iron blades that could hold a sharp edge without snapping on impact. handles were not only perfectly balanced to fit the hand, they also had really cool, intricate designs, often shaped like animal heads. What really made the high-end version stand out was the scabbard. Wealthy Persian nobles had wooden sheaths covered in thin sheets of gold, carved with detailed scenes of lion hunts and mythical beasts, and they used a special side loop that made the whole sword hang sideways across the right hip. That placed the handle at an exact angle for this fast, fluid draw in one motion. Starting around 400 BCE, blacksmiths in Celtic Europe developed a blade called the Tène sword. For this, most swords were short, rigid pieces of metal made mostly for thrusting. If you made an iron sword too long back then, it would just snap or bend when you hit something hard. Well, Celtic smiths solved this using a technique similar to early pattern welding. They took strips of high carbon steel and soft iron, bundled them together, heated them up, and hammered them into a single blade. The hard steel gave the sword a razor-sharp edge. The soft iron absorbed the shock of a heavy swing. So this let them build long, double-edged swords over 30 inches that could bend under pressure but then snap right back into shape without breaking. When Roman soldiers first fought Celtic warriors, they were shocked by how long and tough their swords were. The Celtic fighter could swing one from horseback or on foot, delivering huge blows that cleaved straight through wooden shields and leather armor. This design ended up setting the standard for European sword making for hundreds of years. Standard crossbows were great, but they were slow. You had to shoot, stop, pull the heavy string back, load a new bolt, and aim all over again. But in ancient China, engineers came up with a repeating crossbow called the Zhuge Nu, fired bolts in rapid succession using a simple hand lever. Mounted right on top of the weapon was a wooden box magazine that held up to 10 short arrows. The soldier pulled the rear handle back, the mechanism pulled the bowstring into place, while a new arrow dropped out of the box. Pushing the lever forward, released the string and fired the bolt. A trained soldier could empty all 10 arrows in about 15 seconds. There was a drawback though. Heavy firing power was swapped out for speed, so these short bolts didn't hit hard enough to punch through thick metal armor. To fix that, Chinese armies coated the iron arrow tips in deadly plant poison, so the arrow itself didn't get you, the poison would. Originating in southern India, the Urumi is easily one of the strangest weapons ever created. At first glance, it looks like a long leather belt, but when you unbuckle it, you get a handle attached to thin, flexible steel blades. It's stretched up to 6 feet long. The metal is treated to be extremely flexible, while keeping razor-sharp edges on both sides. It's basically a whip made out of metal. You can't block or strike with it like a normal sword. Instead, fighters would swing the Urumi in circles around their bodies. Nobody would want to get anywhere near that. Controlling it would take insane practice. If you stop your swing too fast or you mess up the angle, the blade could whip right back and hit you instead. Because of that, fighters trained with cloth strips for years before using real metal. But in the hands of an expert, a single person with an Urumi could hold off an entire group of attackers at once. During the late Roman era, engineers took massive bulky siege catapults and shrank them down into a portable metal shooting machine called the Cheiroballistra. Older catapults relied on big wooden frames that would often warp in damp weather. They also just took up a ton of space. The Romans fixed this by making the core frame out of solid bronze and iron. The power came from 2 hollow metal cylinders mounted on the sides, and inside those cylinders were tightly twisted bundles of animal muscle and rope under huge tension. Because the metal frame was so much stronger than wood, it could pack way more power into a much smaller design. The curved shape of the frame also allowed the arms to swing back further, transferring maximum energy into the shot. Instead of needing a whole squad of men to haul it around too, this thing was light enough to move quickly across a battlefield. Launched heavy arrows with insane speed, punching right through body armor with a lot of accuracy. The sleek metal design also looked way ahead of its time, giving the Romans a piece of high-tech precision artillery long before modern machinery existed. That's been the video, and I will catch you, yes you specifically, in the next one.